Well, I'm very excited today to have Laura Petersen here with us, who is the Chief Operating Officer for RERM, which is Real Estate Risk Management. And she oversees a panel of over 500 attorneys that operate in the state of California and Nevada and Arizona, some other states that we don't do business in, but we do business here in California. And we are in kind of partnership together. All of our clients at Elevation Real Estate, both our buyer clients and our seller clients, get the benefit of a suite of products brought to us from RERM. And I'm going to let you, Laura, introduce yourself and kind of explain that a little further.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eddie, for having me here today. I really appreciate it. As you introduced me, I am the Chief Operating Officer for Real Estate Risk Management. We have been in existence now for 34 years. The corporation was started by my father when he had lost everything due to litigation in 1987, and he knew there had to be a better way. So he created Real Estate Risk Management. He is still the CEO. My mother's still the CFO, but they've turned the reins of the corporation over to my direction because I believe that we have the answers for real estate issues in the industry. My goal is to take the company nationwide in the next 10 years. As you said, we do provide services in California, Arizona, Nevada, Hawaii, Oregon. And like I said, I plan on taking this much farther. In addition to being the COO of the company, I am also a real estate mediator. I work hands-on in the legal service center as a mediator. Here we have a team of mediators that handle legal disputes after the close of escrow in regards to problems with the property. And Eddie, so all of your clients receive lifetime mediation services after the close of escrow to help resolve any issues affecting that property. And that could be anything from non-disclosure to a problem with a contractor, such as the termite inspection company, something along those lines, to a barking dog next door. You name it, we've seen it, we mediate it. And it's all at no additional cost to the buyers and sellers. So it's a great incentive for them to be working with you and having our services. Now, before and during escrow, we also provide an attorney service that is there to answer all of the buyers and sellers' transactional non-dispute legal questions. Now, buyers and sellers can say, well, why would I need to talk to an attorney? You're the real estate broker and agent. Don't you know all the answers? Well, I'm going to use COVID as just an example. With COVID, real estate law became like the Wild West. It got crazy. Things were changing overnight. Things were changing within hours. So we really express to our clients, your clients need to get their transactional non-dispute legal questions answered by an attorney. Questions right now, the biggest one is eviction. Okay, can I evict my tenant? Well, with the moratorium going on, there's so many unknowns. There can be a set of rules on one street, and on the next street over, it's a completely different set of rules. That's why it's important for buyers and sellers to speak with an attorney, get these questions answered in regards to that specific property. Totally. The attorneys can also be there to answer questions on taxes, 1031 exchange questions, disclosures. We've had sellers come to us and say, I don't know how to properly disclose this issue. I want to have the least impact on my transaction. What would attorney advise? And the attorney can help give them that language to have the least impact on their transaction. And these consults are available before and during escrow. And if escrow doesn't close, there is no fee. Your clients get to use this service at no additional charge.
Which is tremendous, because to do our job under our as a realtor and under the licensing requirements, we're not licensed attorneys, and people will turn to us seeking kind of advice, and there are times where we have to say you really need to talk to an attorney. And before being in partnership with your service, I would then have to sit back and wait for them to talk to an attorney. Whereas now I can be like, hey, well, let's just start the process with RERM, and it's super quick and always a efficient, and we get to talk to a great attorney, sometimes the same day, other times it'll be the next day. It's pretty tremendous. So
Yeah.
I love it.
And in real estate, it is so important because there's so many legalities in real estate, in buying and selling, and knowledge is power. We always want to have our agents on the calls with the buyer and seller, getting those consultations, so they're hearing that advice as well. Not that they can repeat it, but just so they're hearing it for their own education. And also, it's really important in regards to taxes. We have tax attorneys on our panel. How taxes can impact those transactions for buyers. How is this going to increase my taxes for sellers? What is this going to do to my taxes? And we have a wonderful set of tax attorneys on the panel that are there, as well as trust attorneys. We have great trust attorneys that can be there for a buyer before the close of escrow. Say they want, you know what, they'd best be served putting the property in a trust. Well, how do I do that? Great, we have an attorney for that. So it's unlimited transactional non-dispute legal advice before and during escrow. So it's a really big incentive for your buyers and sellers to be working with you, because not everyone has our services.
Yeah, and that's the key, I think, is while we're not even in escrow, while we're just, if we're buyers and we're just out looking at property, or if we're sellers and we're just in the preparation phase where we're getting the property prepped to go on the market, we have access to these attorneys and services. Then we have access to them when we are in escrow in those processes. And then we have them again after the process is kind of closed out, where if something were to come up and there is advice and needed, or even if it goes further where mediation has to be handled, and that gets handled for free. So
yes, for the lifetime of the transaction. So as long as the seller has sold the property and as long as the buyer owns the property, they are going to have lifetime mediation services by our team of certified mediators. The mediators are not attorneys. They're not there to take sides. They're there to help resolve a situation. I'll give you a case that I personally worked on. The agent actually represented the buyer and the seller. Escrow closed. The buyer decided to do some remodeling and started peeling back some sheetrock and peeling back the insulation, and there were burnt beams throughout the entire house with brand new wiring stapled to the burnt beams. Well, wiring has information on it. It has dates on it. So does the insulation. And the buyer was able to determine that the material was actually made 5 years after the sellers had purchased the property. So the damage to the property was $65,000. So the buyers came to us and said, this is what I've discovered. All I want is for the seller to pay for fixing it. That's all I want. So we assisted the buyer in communicating with the seller. And at first the seller said, oh no, we don't know anything about it. Well, when the buyers disclosed, hey, here's the dates on the wire, here's the dates on the insulation, we were able to work between the two of them. We entered into a settlement agreement and the sellers paid for that damage because there was a fire at the property. There were records that proved there was a fire at the property and that the sellers actually pocketed a little bit of money and didn't do the repairs as they should have. That's just one of the cases. We've dealt with everything here. Non-disclosed issues by sellers, problems with the termite company. They've missed something. And buyers said, well, and then the termite company cleared this, but now there's this huge problem. What do I do? We're willing to offer our mediation services to anyone. It could be the termite company. It could be the home inspector. We work with HOAs. There's a lot of problems with HOAs because HOAs have certain rules. And if you're not following those rules, you can get the violations, but there's, can be misunderstandings and things like that. What we specialize in here is clear communication. I believe that 95% of the problems in real estate are because people are not clearly communicating. And with our services, that's what we are here to clarify. The clear communication between the parties, and let's find the best resolution for it.
I love it, and most of all, one of the things I really like, if ever you get a call from a seller after they've sold a property because something has come up, an issue from the buyer in some regards, there are lawyers and brokers don't allow us to kind of get involved or get engaged in the process because we're not supposed to.
Right.
We're not that's after the service after the fact, which is what we're not covered for. And the beauty of this lifetime of benefits that they get, we're able to kind of get them over to you, and you're able to kind of manage and take care of these scenarios with the knowledge of, because this is what you do. You know how this goes, and how best to take care of all of this good stuff.
Absolutely.
So,
for a seller, you never know when a buyer could come back. I have had cases where the buyers came back 10 years later. Wow. And it was crazy, but the buyer is actually from San Francisco, and she moved to the Santa Cruz Mountains. And even although she was disclosed everything about being on a septic system, she was raised in San Francisco. She didn't know what a septic system was. And so 10 years
until it
later,
broke down 10 years later.
It completely fails. Luckily, the seller had kept their documents. I recommend to everyone, keep your documents. You know, if you're selling a house, it's important, because after so many years, the real estate agents, they have them destroyed. And so for me as a seller,
well, not us. We keep them digitally. We have them all. we have digital copies of everything, and we hold on to them. So.
Yeah, and that's great, because if somebody came back to you, say 5, 7, 10 years later, yeah, you could lawyer up and defend yourself with your lawyers, but then you're going to be putting out all the money for that. But if you have those documents there that say, wait a minute, I disclosed to you that this was on a septic system. You were advised in this advisory to make sure that you maintained your septic system. That's what actually was able to resolve this case. So there's always lots of things and advice that we can give, and that we're happy to help step in and to resolve these disputes. As I said, the biggest problem is clear communication.
Beautiful. Well, Laura, this has been absolutely tremendous. And over at Elevation Real Estate, we are super appreciative of all the work that you do. And it's great to have you partnered with us for this great service. So thank you. Thank you. We
absolutely
really appreciate
thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy the services.
Thank you.